Mr Skidmore, it should come as no surprise I'll have a few questions that are pertinent to West Australia's local aviation industry. And just for the record, I had written to you, Mr Skidmore, you had responded to my questions a couple of times and others, but I just want to go through a couple and just get the answers on record. So Air Services Australia states that, is it Air Services? Yes, that the additional surveillance referring to the ADSB has become necessary due to the ever-increasing volume of traffic that Australia now experiences, particularly in remote regions. Australia now has significant ADSB surveillance coverage available across the continent. If these statements are correct, why is CASA allowing aircraft to fly without this technology on regular passenger flights between Perth, Albany, Perth, Perth, Esperance, Perth, as well as via Ravensthorpe, together with charter flights to Geraldton, Carnarvon and Paraburdoo?
I'm not sure of the exact details regarding those flights or those operations, Senator, but I suspect that if it depends on the operator, but it may be that the operator has applied to us for an exemption because they're about to take those aircraft out of service and we've provided them with that exemption.
It is, and I'll lead that to it. So if these areas north and south of Perth are considered safe without the requirement of ADSB, what areas would CASA deem appropriate for the need of ADSB?
The need of ADSB, Senator. I would consider that the whole of Australia should have ADSB, Senator.
Yep.
The best surveillance capability we can get.
Not an argument from me. So, Mr Skidmore, does CASA believe that aircraft are safer and more efficient with ADSB?
If you consider that having a surveillance system actually allows you to track and monitor those aircraft, then yes, that's a safer system. If it can then ensure that you have you can achieve better flight planning and better route routing because of that system, that surveillance system, then yes, it's more efficient.
Okay, thank you. So then can I ask you, Mr Skidmore, why is CASA allowing Virgin, VARA, to operate without this technology regardless of how far or what area their services operate? I refer back to the Perth Albany, Perth Esperance. Yeah.
Again, I'm not sure of the specifics regarding that operator, but I'll get the details regarding VARA for you, Senator. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't recall.
Can't recall if they are operating those services.
I can't recall the reason behind, if they have an exemption, what the exact reasoning behind that is.
Yeah.
We have given a number of exemptions and they're based on different reasons.
Sure, okie-dokie. So do you accept this exemption could be seen as CASA compromising safety over commercial benefit and advantage, particularly as the exemption has been granted to the 30th of April 2016, some 3 months after the deadline and 2 months after the reason of granting the exemption? And if you don't have the information in front of you, Mr Skidmore, I understand, but hopefully some of the other officers may have.
I actually have the information, Senator. The reason that we gave the exemption was because they are retiring those aircraft. So given that it was a short period of time since the establishment of the ADSB mandate, we determined that it was actually considered not financially viable for an operator to be forced to do that. They're trying to take into consideration economic value in regards to this and look at the situation. Given it was a short period of time, they can operate safely. Discussion with Air Services ensured that they could operate safely. If Air Services hadn't agreed, we wouldn't have gone down that path.
So, without being cute, I do have to once again ask you, do you think CASA could be compromising safety over commercial benefit and advantage?
No, I don't consider we do, Senator.
Okay. Can you outline what happens throughout the exemption process? So who makes the ultimate decision over whether an exemption is granted or not?
Well, the applicant would put forward the information regarding the exemption. The exemptions are, well, the requirement for an exemption is listed. I'm not sure whether I'm the best person to go through this process. I'll find the best person to go through the process for you, Senator.
Even for the purposes of timing, I'm happy for you to take it on notice.
Certainly, Senator.
If that can be provided.
Yes.
So I understand that as of the 1st of November 2015, there were only 98 aircraft in Australia not compliant with CASA's legislative requirements, and that they had until the 4th of February 2016 to be compliant. Is that correct?
The date is correct, Senator, and I'll try and get you the exact numbers.
Sure. This is about the quietest we've been in about 10 years. I know I'm enjoying it. Oh, true. It won't take much.
I don't appear to have the exact numbers with me regarding the actual take-up.
Well, that leads to my next question, because I said 98 by the 1st that 1st of November. So I was going to ask you if you could tell the committee what the number is currently. Obviously, you don't have that in front of you, Mr. Skidmore. Is that right?
We'll ensure that we have that information for you, Senator.
Yeah, sure. No worries. Okay. Now, Mr. Skidmore, should there be a case where the safety of passengers may have been compromised due to the aircraft not carrying ADSB via this exemption, who would be responsible?
Safety of passengers because
Yeah,
of the
if there
exemption.
was a
I'm not
drama,
sure what
yeah.
the issue is in regards to the safety of passengers you're leading towards, Senator.
Well, because if they weren't carrying the ADSB, if it was proof there was an accident or an incident where it was proved the ADSB, if they had ADSB, they could have avoided that, uncategorically avoided that incident.
ADSB is only a surveillance system, Senator. It's up to the whole system to provide the safety and and ensure the safety of all those involved.
So if there was a drama and that wasn't on board?
Again, it's a part of a system, Senator. So it's a surveillance system. We've still got radar operating out in Western Australia. It's incorporated, but ADSB provides you that additional level of surveillance capability.
And maybe I haven't worded the question well enough because you guys know all the language and all that. And
It is verging on hypothetical, Senator.
Oh, hang on. I'm okay now. Thank you very much, Minister. That's so nice. Who would be responsible if there was a drama?
It would depend on the situation, Senator.
As I said, verging on hypothetical.
I just want the last word. Yes, of course you can.
That's all the detail of this at all.
Senator, you might have to...
But if these people have got an exemption from something that everybody else has got to do. You've decided everybody else has got to do it for a reason, because you believe it's going to help make the system more comprehensive and provide a better system. So if you didn't think it was necessary, you wouldn't have made everybody else do it. These people have got an exemption. That must mean that this necessary element's not present with their aircraft. Senator Sterle says there must be a group of things that could happen without the system that
Senator, I agree. Things can happen. It's aviation. It's a risky business. But what it comes down to is...
All he's asking is that question, what if one of those things, one of the things that wouldn't have happened if they had the ADSB in, but does happen because they haven't, is it not the case that the people responsible for giving them the exemption could be held responsible for the accident? That's what Senator Stell's asking. It's not a real hard question. I mean, it's not that hypothetical. There must be this group of things that could happen. Otherwise, you wouldn't insist that everybody else has it.
Senator, we issue a number of exemptions to do with any of the regulations. People can apply to us for an exemption. They list their reasoning behind it. We also ask them to put forward a safety case. So they mitigate the issues associated or the concern regarding that. We also then can put conditions on the exemption if we are concerned in any way. I don't, in this situation, I can't say what those conditions or the other applications were, but we will make an assessment based on the information we're provided to make it then determine whether we should provide that exemption or not. In some cases, we have provided an exemption.
That sounds very much to me like accepting responsibility. If you say, we've applied these conditions that have satisfied ourselves that there is no safety risk, and then something happens, it sounds to me like you're saying, well, if something does happen, you can blame us because we determined the conditions.
Again, it would depend on the actual situation and the assessment made at the time.
So, Mr Skidmore, it is rather difficult from outside looking in that if CASA, who is the regulator, has some set standards and rules and says you have to have this piece of safety equipment by X date, it sort of makes it look a little bit like it's not all really that important. That's how it appears if you're prepared to have exemptions. Because if they're still flying on the same route or whatever, what's the difference?
Well, you're saying that it's not safe now.
I didn't say that, I'm not CASA. I did not say that at all, Minister.
Technology changes as we try and grow and enhance the technology that's available. There are times when you have to say we want all these systems in place. Sometimes not everyone can keep up with that technological change. We're providing a opportunity for those people who can provide us with a good safety case regarding the requirement to then have that exemption. In this case, they're phasing the aircraft out. It's a short period of time.
I understand, but I suppose it leads me to how long was the industry put on notice that they must have this technology? Was it 1 year, 10 years or whatever? That's all. I think that all comes into it too, so they can work their way to it. You would know, I don't.
Well, the ADSB regulations were introduced in 2012.
Okay. So they've had 3 years to get it in. Which, I'm not arguing with you. Has there been a precedent set in the past where aircraft have been allowed to circumvent regulations like this example?
I don't know they circumvent regulations, Senator, but they can request, certainly operators can request exemptions.
If it was due to safety being compromised, why is it okay now and is not compromising safety? Why did all aircraft operators have to install the ADSB by the mandated date? So when was the mandated date issued?
Well, the mandate for the 500 nautical mile quadrant northeast of Perth, the mandated date was the 4th of February 2016. So it was last week.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but when was that date issued?
When the date was issued?
Yeah.
I might ask my Executive Manager, Airspace and Aerodromes Division,
Tony.
to confirm the date, if Peter has it.
Peter Cromarty, Executive Manager for Airspace and Aerodrome Regulation at CASA. The mandate to which you refer was one of several which were originally put together in a package through an industry consultative group called Astra. And so about 2005 this program was started. Mm-hmm. The legislation was put in place around 2009. And so most operators for the first mandate, which came out in, which became effective in December 2013, had about 5 years, just short of 5 years.
So, okay, so when were they told, when was the industry or all of the industry notified, or whatever it is, what part of the industry, that they had that date by the 4th of February, was it? Is that what it was?
Yeah, 4th of February last week.
Yeah. So how much notice did they have?
I think I'll have to take that one on notice for the precise period.
And this, well, that's important. Okay, is no one else who can help me out? Nope. It's all gone.
You want the exact date of the legislation?
Yeah. No, when they were told. When the industry was notified by February the 4th, 2016, okay, you've got to have this or you're not going to operate.
The original consultation, as far as I'm aware, Senator, was 2005, 2009, so there was certainly consultation and discussion going on with industry.
No, I got that.
I understand the regulation came into being in 2012.
2013?
2012.
Oh, 12.
We can get the date.
Sorry. First mandate was 2013.
Well, the first mandate was 2016, so the 4th of February 2016.